I just made it in here by the skin of my teeth tonight. Oh my goodness. I went for a 10-mile walk, and then my sons, Ian, Avery Quinn, and Avery's girlfriend Jasmine, we all went to do a good deed today for our neighbor who has a loquat tree, which is, if you haven't seen one of those trees, better look that up. But it's a fruit tree, and the fruit tree, when it gets going, it's too dangerous for our neighbor to walk around. She's elderly, and there's fruit all over the place. And hey man, it's a pandemic, and food is something that ought not to be wasted at any time, particularly not awesome fruit. So we were out there with ladders and picking, and I wound up baking pies. So I didn't even think I was going to get into this room by 7:30. Okay, 1 whole minute just eaten up by that thought. So tonight, I don't know about the rest of you, but for some of us, Father's Day can be fraught. It was always fraught at my house. My dad was not a good guy. So he was a scary guy, scary bad guy most of the time. So I grew up without a good, safe father figure. And in our house, to be honest, Father's Day has also been a little fraught. You know, fathers and sons, it's never going to be easy. I don't care who the dad is. There are rough patches. And we seem to be going through like one unending rough patch here. So it put me in mind of Father's Day. Also, I've been like thinking about some of the awesome dads that are out there. I was talking to a gentleman named Chip Vogan, who is just an amazing guy. He plays the banjo. If you do not know about the Dram Trio, you absolutely need to find out about the Dram Trio, because Chip Vogan and the Dram Trio have been around roughly since God was a boy. They're amazing. They perform locally and all over the country when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. But I was talking to Chip because two viral things happened to Chip in the last couple days. One was that he got one of those like goofy computer things and opened it, and then it sent it to everybody. So his computer got a virus. The other thing is that his son Will, who is my son Zoltan's best friend since childhood, Will has COVID-19 up in New York. So we are sending out all of the good prayers and thoughts and everything to Will tonight. And so because I was talking to Chip, it put me in mind of this column. So I pulled it off the internet. It's from the Christian Science Monitor from July 3rd, 2012. And it was about when Andy Griffith passed away. And anyone who's ever met Chip Vogan knows that there is a very powerful resemblance between Chip Vogan and Andy Griffith. Yes, there is. So here we go. Although Chip is still kicking, so it's not that kind of resemblance. Paul is dead. Despite the fact that I learned of the passing of Andy Griffith on my impersonal smartphone's news alert, my internal self heard a 7-year-old Ron Howard tearfully delivering the news to my city girl heart. To me, a kid growing up in a broken home in the mid-1960s, raised by a single mother in New York City, watching the Andy Griffith Show and black and white reruns was my version of the Fresh Air Fund. Opie, Ron Howard, was my pal, and Sheriff Andy and Aunt Bee were my role models in a world that came without aprons or apple pie or emotional stability. That was Mayberry, and a tune I still whistle as my own blue heaven in every place I have been, from reporting in Tel Aviv during a Scud missile attack to living on a sailboat. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be stuck in your head all night. You're welcome. It hurts me to hear him eulogized as folksy, because folk folks just don't really see that as a good thing these days, but more as something to be dismissed as cute. Frankly, I think I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life since moving to Norfolk, Virginia 7 years ago, because there's that twang and homespun feel that reminds me of the childhood I pretended to have in Mayberry. Mr. Griffith's home in North Carolina is just close enough to send that vibe by osmosis. Urban legend even has it that Griffith himself chose the name of the fictional Mayberry community after the community of Mayberry, Virginia. Probably explains my unending patience with every version of Don Knotts, Barney Fife, the Goofy Deputy that I have ever met. I will never forget the episode where an Opie and a new city kid played a prank on the lovable Goober Pile character by putting a walkie-talkie under a dog's collar and making the poor guy believe that he had himself a talking dog. This was a lesson nobody in my house was around to teach me, the little prankster. Always acting out and being smart alecky to cover for being caught in an adult crossfire. I remember the sad, stern countenance of Griffith when he made the discovery of how low Opie felt when he realized he and City Boy had been cruel to the trusting, kind-hearted innocent. I was City Girl, acting just like City Boy, and I knew I needed to mend my ways and my fences. That wasn't something the writers accomplished with a simple storyline. It was what happened when Andy Griffith sorrowfully shook his head and then gave that look of disappointment. The best thing was watching Griffith get angry or annoyed with some hopelessly clueless person he was stuck trying to help. See, when my dad got angry, things got broken, people included. But when Sheriff Andy got angry, he'd say something like, "You blew it. You stood right there and you blew it." No exclamation point. Just a simple, plain, honest statement of fact, head shake, and a look that told you he'd much rather be out gigging a frog than dealing with whatever the crisis of the day happened to be. As a teen, his gruff, witty Matlock wisdom made me like lawyers. Today, my own lawyer, Chip Vogan, is pretty much a carbon copy of Matlock, right down to the Carolinian accent. I can see him delivering the Matlock line. "What's the matter with you? Did someone cut the wire between your brain and your mouth?" The Andy Griffith Show was also one of the last times American television allowed fathers to know and to do best. Because not long after that, fathers began to slide into comic relief and perpetual beer-swilling, cheating idiocy. Homer Simpson and Married with Children became the new lower standards for fatherhood, and the lessons that kids watching learned began to change society and family structure here in America. Still, Andy Griffith was the bedrock, and no matter how much polluted TV water flows over his legacy, there are still those whose lives he touched, like Ron Howard, who were there to filter out the impurities and pass those lessons on to us in their work. I know we always complain that kids are being raised by the idiot box, TV. But if you were like me, raised on the likes of Andy Griffith, then really the parenting wasn't all that bad. So that was 2013. This is June 14th, 2014. Celebrating Father's Day when Dad is absent. Father's Day is not an easy time for many families who are struggling with a father who is absent. While some may grit their teeth and soldier through or skip the day completely. Others celebrate people in their lives who have filled their father's shoes. I'm not talking about a dad who works too much or is in the military and on deployment, but men who father children and then either leave the picture or make it a dark and scary image for their child. My dad was an alcoholic who left us when I was 10. After he left us, my mom, brother, and I were basically on our own, and Father's Day became associated with negative and even dangerous relationships in our lives. In my mind, Father's Day celebrates and honors men who fill the parenting, mentoring, and other support functions the role of father entails. That's why I feel a twinge as Father's Day draws near, knowing that many of the children I now mentor wrestle with the same social and emotional strain that I did as a child. People at school and in the neighborhood mean well when they merrily ask a child what they're doing for their dad on the big day. However, for many kids, that question can ignite a powder keg of emotions. Instead of celebrating my biological dad, we came to a point where we celebrated the people in our lives, male or female, related by blood or not, who fill the gap by supplying a father's presence. It began when I decided back in elementary school to make a Father's Day card, father, mother, for my mom, to let her know how much I appreciate all she did to support my brother and me as a single parent. In school, while other kids were making cards, clay ashtrays, and paper ties for their dads, I would sulk or sculpt angry faces. One day, the art teacher reached out to me suggesting I make something for the person I knew who was doing the job of a father and give the gift to him. There was not a single man in my life at that time, no grandfather, mentor, teacher, or even a neighbor. My mom and I had come to be distrustful of all men, and so we tended to isolate ourselves from them. So I made a blue pinstripe card and wrote Happy Father's Day on it. Inside, I wrote to my mom and told her how I felt about her on that day. However, the art teacher was a man, and he'd given me a new way to look at this holiday. So I started to realize maybe men weren't all that bad. After that, I began to seek out male mentors to fill the gap, men who would eventually become my Father's Day card recipients. The song For Good from the Broadway musical Wicked speaks to me on this subject because it helped me to make some peace with my dad's memory. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. But I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I am who I am today because I knew you. Key words in that song for me were, if we let them. I am who I am today because of all those years ago when I was inspired to find that person who helped me most to grow because I decided to let him. For the past 25 years, the person I call or write to on Father's Day is Edmund Flormont, owner of Fantasy Island Amusement Park, Long Beach Island in New Jersey. The man is absolutely no relation to me. I met him as an adult while covering him for a news story and argued with the man until I was hoarse and he was laughing too hard to remain standing. The argument was over the fact that he was refusing to grant me an interview, and I had been assigned the task of getting a personal profile of a man who had refused all other reporters as a cub reporter. I was arguing for my life, and he folded to my dogged insistence, granting the interview. Despite our clash at our first meeting, or perhaps because of it, Mr. Flormont saw something of himself in me, and he began to help me rebuild all the bridges I had burned between myself and the idea of trusting or even listening to any fatherly man. He became my mentor, guide, cheerleader, point of reference, and moral compass. When my father died, during my freshman year of college, I didn't cry over his absence. I grieved for the loss he had been from start to finish. I don't want to think about the day when Ed Florimont is not around to be celebrated on Father's Day, because he is the man who has earned the homage and respect due a father figure. I often tell children I meet who are sulking about the upcoming holiday that it's not fair that they've been let down by a parent. But instead of staying angry, hurt, or sad about what we don't have, we can go out and find the people we need. And when we do, celebrate them every chance we get. Then we will be changed for good. Oh, the last part of that was hard because, yes, we did lose Ed last year. And that was just perhaps one of the most devastating losses ever. I'd actually lost Ed much sooner than that to dementia. And a lot of people, when they suffer dementia at the onset, they get very, very, very hostile, very angry. It's just a thing. I don't know why it happens. I'm sure there's a big scientific explanation behind it. But Ed had just shut out everyone. So we lost him, and then we lost him. So that was hard. But I hung on to the lesson of ashtray making day with the art teacher. And in the interim met Chuck McCoy, who was the real McCoy. He was another father figure. You can have more than one. That is the beauty of being able to roll with making your family, because family is totally what you make it. I know that for my sons, they struggle with it right now, and I know that a lot of people do. And that's why I decided to start Father's Day before we even hit June. Because for me, it takes the whole month just to get going. So for all of the amazing fathers out there, Ryan, Edric, Feather, I see you. Amazing, amazing dad. Amazing influence on so many kids. I can tell you that my sons, if they had the option of sending a Father's Day card to someone, I bet Mr. Featherer would be super high up on the list, because he mentored them and parented them. Like so many of you have. I probably have an incredibly long list. Brian Lancaster is like kind of parenting me right now. He's my age. He and his wife. So for all of you who are the dad to kids that are yours in spirit, man, you all rock. And I'm going to keep thanking you every day between now and Father's Day and beyond. So I hope you all have a great night. Look up what loquats are. They're awesome. And I'm going to have a bunch more of them soon. So anybody who wants them, direct message me, because we could work something out. Love you all. Good night.